Hi guys and welcome to my channel. Today I'm sharing 10 inspiring furniture makeovers for any budget. So let's get started. Hello my friends, here I am. I thought we'd take a break from the seasonal DIYs and do some furniture makeover. I love redoing furniture pieces, and today we'll be working on this desk vanity. I will be making it over. If you follow along, you know this one was in my master bedroom. I had gotten a new one, and this one needed some updates. It was looking a little rough around the edges. I had gotten this off of Facebook Marketplace and used it as my vanity, and there were a couple things on there that I needed to sand down. It was dirty, but it was like oily dirty from all the makeup and stuff like that, so I wanted to upcycle it again and maybe put it out for sale since I already had another one in my room. So I had gotten this. It came with a dresser. I have the original makeover already on my channel. I will link it at the end for you to check it out. Both the little dresser that it came with and this desk. And now you can see how I make it over again and maybe resell it. So I had removed all the hardware first, and then I'm going to give it a good wipe down, take off as much grease and things that I can. Some of it I could not, it was just on there. I think it was more stained than greasy. And then I took a little, just a hand block sander, and just sanded down that little, it looked like water damage, but it actually wasn't. I'm not quite sure. I think it was just scratches in the paint. So I took them off just so they don't show up when I paint over it. I will be painting this piece of furniture with Annie Sloan Athenian Black, which is their black paint. They also have a graphite, which is more kind of lighter black, but this one is a deep black. And I'm going to start off with the drawers, and then I'm going to move on to the piece of the rest of it. So here is the piece after first coat. As you can see, I'm going to need to apply another coat on here. It was just some of the white was just showing through, and I figured that is exactly what I was gonna need to do, and I also need to paint that piece. While the second coat was drying, because I didn't want to bore you with me painting it with the second coat, I ended up adding some gold gilding wax, which is Annie Sloan as well, onto all the hardware. And I'm always also going to be adding it to those little accent pieces that were removed um, from the drawers. But before you do that, since the gilding wax has to be the last thing you apply to your furniture, I am just adding a clear coat, clear lacquer coat. This is to protect the paint and the piece on it. And then once that had a little bit of time to dry, you want it to dry completely, I proceeded with adding the wax onto the edges where you can see that there is wax, there is the gold already. This one was a lot more gold that I was adding than the dull gold that was already on there. So while the clear coat was drying on there, I started adding clear coat to all the drawers. The body of the furniture wasn't quite dry yet, so I wanted to get get things done that I could. So while the drawers were drying, I added the wax to the side of this, and I wanted to get in here as close as possible to show you how this looks. I think it almost gave it a new life. I liked this gold a little bit better than the gold that was already on there. Now I just have the top of the furniture left to add the protective coat. I already did the body of it. And then once that was completely dried, I did wipe some of it off from the gold edge that was on there. And then once it was almost dried, I went ahead and added the gilding wax to the sides of the where the gold is showing. Just the same idea as the other one, just to kind of give it some more life. The last part before I put the piece back together was to do the legs and this little accent piece that was at the bottom of this desk, and I really liked to accentuate this little decor piece here, and so by adding the gold it really made it pop out. And then I also did the two legs here, and then I also did the little, just a little part on the bottom of the other two legs, but I did videotape it. It's just with the angle it did not really show very well. And then I put the whole piece back together, and I am so pleased with the way this piece turned out. This was not a very solid piece of furniture. It was more of the cheaper kind of furniture, but I think with this upgrade, the paint and the gilding wax really elevated the piece and made it look very high end. I would love to know what you think about this piece. Do you like it? I did end up applying another coat of the lacquer on top, trying not to hit the golden edges, and just for extra protection. So I would love to know what you think about the makeover. Let me know down in the comments. Let me know if you enjoy these type of videos. It seems to be the type of videos that get watched the most on my channel, so I would love to know if you enjoyed this one as well. Today I'm going to be upcycling this IKEA table, making it over into something completely different using some supplies that I've had at home. So you can pick these up for around 20 bucks at IKEA, and they're not bad. They serve their purpose, but you know, after a while they get kind of tired looking. So I thought I'd give it a little makeover. For the makeover, I am going to be using some chalk paint, the white original, which is like old white, kind of creamy white, then General Finishes High Performance top coat, water-based top coat, as well as a stain, wood stain in Special Walnut. You will need two different brushes, just a bristle brush for your chalk paint, or a chalk paint brush if you have one. I just picked this up at a dollar store, as well as a foam brush that came from a dollar store, and then a rag. So I'm going to be using a rag for my wood stain, this for chalk paint, and this for the top coat. I will be using this top coat for both the stain and the chalk paint, some sort of a protective cover. And then I had found this place on Facebook Marketplace that gives out free palettes. You just go there and pick whichever palette you want, and for free. So I had picked up several different ones just for different projects, and I'm going to be using this one. So I will need some tools to take this apart. I'm just not 100% sure what. I'm thinking a crowbar. And here are my assistants, supervisors, more or less, not assistants. So let's get started. So the first thing that, oh, and you also need wood glue, which I just remembered it's not here. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this apart and cut it to measurement and stain it. So this part turned out to be the hardest part of this project, is removing these pieces of wood off. I was using a crowbar and a hammer. I did break off a couple pieces or the end pieces. They seem to be the hardest to pop off. The middle ones came right off. So like I said, this ended up being the hardest part. So while you watch me struggle with these, I just want to say, if this is your first time stopping by, welcome. My name is Sonja and you're watching my DIY channel. Well, you'll find videos like these along with furniture makeovers, dollar store DIYs, and thrift store upcycles. I post every other day or so, 3 times a week. So if that's something that interests you, make sure you press the notification bell and subscribe button so you don't miss out any of my future uploads. So once I had them all removed, I do take off most of the nails. I do not take the nails off the parts where I will be cutting it off. So I put them on top of the table just to see how long I need them to be, and then I use another piece of wood as almost a ruler just to draw a straight line where I'm gonna cut. I use a miter saw to cut the pieces. Now that all the pieces are cut, I just take a sander just to sand off any loose pieces of wood, so to prevent splinters and smooth out anything that needs to be smooth. I did want the wood to look as rough as possible, but I didn't want anybody to get hurt, especially since this is going to be the top of the table. Now the wood is ready for staining, and I'm using that special oak stain, and I'm using a rag to apply it, and you want to go in the direction of the wood grain. I did decide to stain all the sides, even the one that I was gonna be gluing to the top of the table. Whenever I'm staining, if I'm staining a piece of wood that already had a stain on, I do prefer using gel stain, but on raw wood, I love using just a regular stain. While the stain pieces are drying, now it's time to use my chalk paint and paint the legs as well as just the trim on the bottom. This did take 2 coats. So after I applied the second coat and it had time to dry, I applied some wood glue. You could also use liquid nails for this, and I glued the top the skid pieces onto the top of the side table. I think this just gives this table the farmhouse look for on the budget. If you were to buy a table that had this type of a top, it would cost you way more than just $20. So several hours later, I am inside now because it was raining, and I apply my top coat on with a sponge brush, and I apply 2 coats of this. I absolutely love the way this turned out. I think the little edge here that looks like live edge turned out really nice. It gave this table a whole new look, and it made it from maybe unusable to usable. And I think it would look great in any farmhouse type of decor in your home. Be upcycling this TV unit. It is from IKEA. It is something that I've had for many years. It is not working for me in this room. It kind of needs to be redone. So, and I wanted to make it look a little bit more farmhousey-ish. So I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to be using some Annie Sloan chalk paint supplies, as well as some wood supplies from a dollar store, which I will get into it in a minute. So I'm gonna take the TV off, the PlayStation off. I'm not gonna empty anything out of the drawers because I don't need to do that. I don't think I'm gonna remove the glass drawers either, the sliding doors, because I kind of need to know where I want them to stand, and I don't want to take them off and then not know how to put them back on, because that does happen to me often, especially with IKEA stuff. So let's get started. So here are the supplies that I'm going to be using. Oh, I need a knife or something to cut the sticks with. So anyways, so I have these sticks that I want to try because I have an idea to use. They're wooden plank labels, but I'm just using the sticks, so I will be getting rid of this pointy stuff. And then here are the paints. I've got Annie Sloan Original, I've got graphite, as well as some dark wax and some Paris gray. I'm also using hot glue. Now, the reason for hot glue, I don't typically use hot glue with furniture, but however, because I'm trying something different and I'm not sure that I'm gonna love this, how it's gonna turn out, so I don't want to be using anything permanent because I'm worried that I'm not gonna like it and I'm not gonna be able to remove it, whereas with hot glue you can always somehow pop it off. However, if I do love it, and once I'm able to get the permanent glue, because it dried out on me, I'm going to go and get the exact glue that I need, and I can always just reinforce it with that afterwards. If you like the look and you want to give it a try, I would advise you maybe just to use the permanent glue. I'm going to seal the whole thing with some chalk paint lacquer in clear gloss. This is just, you use the brush to apply it, which is right here. I have some of my wax brushes for the dark antiquing wax. That's not a finishing wax, that's just a antiquing wax. And I need to get my chalk brushes too. And then I just have a Envirocloth to just wipe this whole thing down. So I'm gonna start with cleaning it, and then I'm gonna start with working on with the sticks. So like I said, the first thing that I do is clean it off, make sure there's no sticky stuff on it or anything stuck to it, because if there is, the paint won't stick. And I'm just using this time around wet cloth. Sometimes I use cleaning products, but I just thought I used just a wet cloth. This is pretty much the only prep you need to do with Annie Sloan paint. Sometimes with chalk paint, sometimes you might need to sand down if there is something really stubborn on it and won't get off. You might have to sand it, but that's it. Now I'm moving on in measuring out my sticks. So I want to create a kind of a barn door look on here. So I'm gonna do 2 edges and then crisscross in the middle. And I'm just using actually wire cutters to cut the wood, because I find that they work really well. And so I measured out, and then I cut this into 4 times, because I have 4 sides that I need it cut out for. I didn't want to put a border at the bottom, and there is already a metal border on top, which I will be painting with that graphite later on. And the reason why I didn't want to do a border on the bottom is because of the sliding part, and I thought if I put a border, it might interfere with the way the glass shelf slides open. So I left that out, and I think it did turn out pretty nice without it. So once I had all my pieces cut, this is when the gluing starts. And like I said, now that I have done it and I love it, once I'm able to go get to the store, I'm gonna go buy the proper glue to glue the pieces on properly, because I do find that if somebody were to hit it, these would pop off. For the middle, it was a little bit tricky to figure out the best way to do this, but I think cutting the little pieces to fit in the middle rather than at the end was a better way. And I also wanted to say that the reason why I am doing these garden sticks is also I didn't want to attach anything heavy onto the glass, because that would not work either. I think it would just over time warp the glass, or make the glass fall off if you added like actual real pieces of wood. I think even trim would be too heavy for it. Now that the sticks are on, I did the other side as well. I am letting the glue dry, and then I am while that's drying, I'm going to apply a very light coat of the Paris gray. Because you're going to be laying another coat of another paint on it, I'm going to be adding some graphite. This is why this does not need to be a solid coverage. And you're also going to be adding some dark wax to it as well. So just enough to almost like primer the top. But I'm using the light gray paint. So while the gray paint is drying, I am going to be painting the rest of the piece of furniture with my Annie Sloan original, which is like old white. It's a bit of an off-white color. And this, I added 3 coats because I wanted it to be a fairly solid coverage. I didn't mind if a little bit showed through, just it gives it that aged look, but I wanted it to be a more solid coverage. If this is your first time stopping by my channel, welcome. My name is Sonja and I share furniture upcycles, thrift store makeovers, as well as dollar store DIYs over here on my DIY channel. Most of my DIYs are very budget friendly, so if this is something that interests you, I would love it if you considered subscribing, becoming part of my YouTube family. And don't forget to turn that notification bell on so you get notified whenever I upload a new video. So while I'm waiting for my white coat to dry, I am going to be adding my graphite, and I'm doing some wet, heavier strokes, and then I'm going to follow with some dry brushing. And the wet ones, my brush, because I washed it after painting the white, is fairly wet, so I'm just spreading it out with a rag, and then I'm going to dry it off and just go over it with just a dry strokes. And this will give it that barn board look once I apply my dark wax. It will give it that little bit of a darker to lighter spots, and this is why you wanted to apply a lighter color paint on top, so you have that paint dimension, I guess I would call it. So now I'm going to add my dark wax. I am using a dark wax brush as well as the dark wax from any salon, and I am brushing it on. I am not wiping it off until the end, just to get any chunks off that were left on it. I love using this technique because I think it gives you that wood look. So what I'm after, which is the barn wood look. I also use this technique when I was refinishing my fireplace. If you missed that video, I will link it at the end for you to check it out. I refinished my whole fireplace with this technique, and it just took it from that orange oak color to a barn wood look, and I love it. At the ends, because it was flushed with the side, I ended up doing taking a rag and just adding the wax with the rag, because I was worried that I was going to mess up the whole side where it was painted white. Now that all of my coats have been on, I am taking my graphite with a small brush and just painting over any metal pieces that were on this piece of furniture. So like the trim on top, and then there's a legs and a trim on the sides. Now I'm taking my sealer and applying it with a sponge brush, and I'm going to cover the whole piece. I'm not showing you the whole thing just because I'm just brushing it on. I'm sure you guys all know how to apply a sealer, and this is a great, I love using the sealer because it's so much easier to apply it than the wax, and it is also great for outdoors because it does give it that waterproofing, which I think is great for this, in case if somebody does put a cup that's wet or anything like that on it, it will give it that long-lasting protection. So it is all done. I absolutely love the way it turned out. I think it's a totally different look. I love, love, love the top. I'm going to give you a closer look at that. I think it gave it that perfect barn board look. And for quarter can of paint and barely any paint on top of here. I think it was a very budget friendly upgrade. I'm bringing you another furniture type makeover. I will be making over this fireplace. It does have an insert as well that works. It's an electric fireplace and it's going to go down into my basement. I am doing some changes down there and I thought to cozy it up, to add a fireplace. Obviously to add a gas fireplace would be very expensive, and I'm not sure, I'm sure it's possible, but without tearing up some walls. So I had found this one on Facebook Marketplace, I think it was, or Kijiji, either way, and I think I did barter a little bit to, I think that's what you call, to get the price down, and I had picked it up for $140. I did think that was still a little high. However, they must be really popular because the fireplace prices, electric fireplace prices have gone up quite a bit. So I obviously do not love the look of it, and so I had found a way to make it look a little bit like barn board, and I'm hoping I can achieve that look. I had played around with it a little bit on just a plain piece of wood, and I loved the end result, but I'm hoping that I can apply the same to the fireplace. So here are the materials that you will need to create that look. So here are the supplies that you're going to need. You don't have to use any Sloan chalk paint. This is not sponsored by any Sloan chalk paint either. I just love using any Sloan chalk paint, and it's not hard for me to get it. So you will start with, I had to transfer mine. This is Paris Gray, any Sloan, with a light gray chalk paint, and that will be your base coat. And then you're gonna follow with dark gray. I am using graphite. It is more on a black than dark gray, but it is the only dark gray I have, I guess. And then original, which is creamy color or off-white, or you can use white. So essentially, you can use Rust-Oleum brand or any other brand of chalk paint that you love to work with or easy to get. You just need light gray, dark gray, cream, or white. And then you're gonna need some dark wax, brown wax, or antiquing wax. I am using soft wax by Annie Sloan in dark. And then I'm going to finish it off with clear gloss lacquer. This is in place of a wax. You can also use wax if you want. I have just been really enjoying using this and how easy it is to use it. So I've been just using that, but you can definitely use just normal wax as well. Then you need your wax brush, your paintbrush. I can find these online, so I have a link in my Amazon store to very similar brushes that you can get on Amazon, and anybody can get it, and they're actually quite a bit cheaper than what I have paid for these. Like this one had come from Benjamin Moore. It's their cottage paint brush. It is a chalk paintbrush, but I can't find it on the website. And I got this from a local store called Whimsical Furnishings, and I don't know if it's their brand or like an off brand, but I can't find it on the website either. So I have, like I said, I have linked, found some on Amazon, which I will most likely be purchasing as well once I'm done using these. These have lasted me for quite some time, and they don't look like they need to be replaced yet. But when I do replace them, I will be buying those. And then you will need some lint-free rags and then some sort of a cleaner just to wipe things down. Sometimes I just use water. Sometimes I use water and vinegar. Sometimes you need something like Goo Goo Gone or something if there's things stuck to it. But that's all the prep work that I'm going to be doing on here, because it doesn't look like it needs any light sanding whatsoever. So the first step is to give it a good wipe down. So I just added a little bit of paper around, slid it underneath so I don't have to worry about getting my bottom dirty. So now I'm gonna apply the first coat. It doesn't have to be a very good coverage because you are layering paint again. So, but this is the only full paint coverage that you're gonna do, a solid paint coverage that you're going to be doing. And for that, like I said, I am using Annie Sloan Paris Gray. And I switched into this big can because my other can fell apart. And I had gotten these tools at Dollarama. This is what it looks like. It's very light gray. So the top is done, just to show you what it looks like. And I'm going to move on to the bottom. I will not be painting inside because that's where the insert goes, so I don't really see the point. But I do have to thin out my paint a little bit. I did find it was a little thick going on. I just kept it that way on top because I didn't want it to have different texture on there, but I'm going to thin it out for the rest of the fireplace. So it is done now. I'm going to let this coat fully dry before I move on to the next coat. So now I am ready to apply another paint, and I'm going to go with a Annie Sloan Original or Old White. It is a creamy off-white type of color, and I'm going to dry brush it. And the way you do that is you take your brush, you dip it into the paint, and then you take most of that paint off and then just brush whatever's left on. So I clean my brush, and you want to make sure that your brush is completely dry. So I'm going to use my rag to take the paint off. So just to show you what it looks like closer. So there's more, there's less, but that's how you want it to look. So now the next step, I'm gonna do exactly the same thing with graphite. So now I'm going to let that dry before I move on to waxing. Okay, so now that it had time to dry, I'm going to start with applying the dark wax or the antiquing wax. Any salon has waxes in dark, black, and white, and then the clear wax is the protecting wax. So this is what it looks like. So not sure if the camera is doing its justice, but this looks absolutely stunning. And the different layers of paint makes it look like wood grain a little bit. And I can't wait to complete the whole thing. So I switched to an angled brush because it just gets into the little crevices a little bit better. Now I'm just going to gently wipe off any little clumps or anything that might have gone on it. So I'm now going to add the clear gloss and the lacquer all over, and I will show you how I do it with the foam brush, and I will probably do 3 coats. I'll probably just show you the first coat just because I don't want to bore you with the same process over and over. So I won't go too thick. And you can kind of see where you've been. It kind of leaves like a milky coat on it, but that'll dry. So I'm going to let that coat dry completely before I apply another coat. Here it is, and I absolutely love the way it looks. I am loving the barn board look that the different paints gave it, and the antique wax elevated it to that next level. Today I'm trying out something new, something that I haven't done before, and that is to use spray paint in a can to make over a piece of furniture. So I will be making over this side table. It's an IKEA side table. I think they're called the LAC side tables. I had two of them. I've already posted the one that I made over a couple weeks ago. Totally different look than what I'm planning on doing with this one. So I have, like I said, never spray painted furniture with a can spray paint or any type of spray paint, even the one that maybe you pour into a spray or a spray paint. I usually just paint it, but I thought I'd give this piece a try with the can spray paint, since it is a small piece and it shouldn't take too long or too much paint to paint it. So I am using chalked spray paint by Rust-Oleum. But the first thing that I'm gonna do is, as always, give this piece a good wipe down. Make sure there's nothing sticky on it, because you don't want it to have sticky stuff, because otherwise spray paint or any other paint or stain will not stick to it. And once I have it ready, I move on to spray painting. So when I started to spray paint, I kind of went the same way as I do with painting anything else. I go with even strokes back and forth, not too far, not too close. I do find that if I'm too far, I'm not getting as good of a coverage, but if I'm too close, then I get the blobs of paint, because I'm almost feels like I'm concentrating on one spot for too long. So I am giving it one coat first, and then I will see if I should give it another coat of spray paint or not, because I am doing something else to it, so one coat might be enough. So I would love to know, have you guys done the spray painting of furniture before? And if you did, what did you think? How did you like it? Did it work out for you? I would love to know. And if this is your first time stopping by my channel, my name is Sonja, and I do lots of different DIYs, from furniture makeovers to Dollar Tree DIYs to just trash to treasure upcycles. So if there's something that interests you, I would love it if you consider subscribing, pressing the notification bell, so you don't miss out any of my future uploads. So I am getting close to the end, and I'm not sure if I'm sold on this. Here is a bit of a close-up. Because the way it was sitting, there was a little bit of dripping of paint effect happening, which I wasn't crazy about. I could take a paintbrush and smooth it out, I guess, before it dries. But here is a closer look so you can see what all that spray painting, the coverage that it did. I think if you were trying to go for maybe that marbled effect on top, I think spray painting would be a great idea because I think it gave it a really nice marble effect. So now I decided that I wanted to sand couple edges, just make it a little bit distressed, going for that shabby chic look. I took the softest sandpaper that I had, but it was scratching the furniture a little too much. I tried breaking it up into little pieces so I'm not scratching it all over the place, just maybe concentrating onto the area that I wanted to sand down. But I really wasn't very happy with the outcome of this sandpaper. I wanted to also sand down the dripping parts and distress those areas, but like I said, I wasn't overly crazy with the way this was looking. So I decided to do something else, but before I moved on to that, I used my stencil. I have used this stencil several times already. I absolutely love it. I am also using Annie Sloan Original chalk paint as well as Annie Sloan graphite to apply the chalk paint and to give it some more effect that I decided to do after the sanding did not work out. So as usual with this chalk paint, with the stencil, you don't want to go heavy with the paint. You want to dab it and not rub it. It's definitely less is more with the stenciling, and also it is a process. It takes a bit of time. Be patient with it, because if you rush the process, you will not be happy with the outcome. Your paint will leak through, it will get smudged. Even with dabbing and going slow, sometimes the paint gets smudged a little bit. So like I said, take your time, be patient, and you will be happy. If you rush it, you will have a mess and you will have to redo it, or just give up on the project altogether, which is sometimes what happens to me. And I always love this. I always say I love the ta-da moment when you're done stenciling and you remove the stencil to see what a great job you have done. Like I said, I absolutely love this stencil. I got it on Amazon. I will have it linked in the description box if you would like to give it a try. Now I take that same graphite and I go over all the areas that I use the sandpaper for, just to give it that distressed look and to cover up the sand marks, because I really wasn't happy with the way they turned out. Now, I'm not also overly happy with just chunks of this graphite all over the place. So I go over it with some watered down old white, and I just don't put a lot of it on and brush it on. And then I also, in some spots, take the rag and just rub and blend the two colors together. You want to make sure that your stenciling area is completely dry before you move on to this step, because again you will get some smudging, and a little bit of smudging or even like blurring is not bad. I think it does give the piece a bit of that antique look, but if you overdo it, it will kind of look silly then. So I've done the whole area, and now I'm just going to move on and do the stenciled part, just to make sure that it was almost completely dry. I don't actually go over it too heavy with the rag. I do gentle wipes. And the part that I did not show you, I do finish it off with a clear wax coat, and I've done that so many times, so you can check some of my other videos to see how I do that. So here is the piece. I absolutely love the way it turned out. I think it gave this boring side table a new look. It made it more of a showcase piece, like a standout piece that accent piece that you can use in your decor. Today I'm going to be making over this beautiful TV unit. I'm going to be layering chalk paint and showing you how to do that step by step. But first I'm going to be doing some fixing up and using a wood filler to fill in all these scratches and dents that are in it. Some are pretty deep, so they needed to be filled. The wood filler that I'm using just came from Home Depot, and it can be any wood filler that you have. So the first step is to clean the piece off, make sure there's nothing on there. There was some sticky stuff on it, so I ended up using, because I didn't have Goo Gone, so I ended up trying to sand it down, but it didn't work, so I ended up using some acetone just to remove the stickiness. Because I was painting it anyways, it didn't matter if the color came off a little bit, but you do want to be careful if you're not painting it or anything that you don't remove too much color, because the acetone will remove the stain as well. But if I didn't remove the sticky stuff, the chalk paint would not stick on it, would not go on it, and it would show through. I also gave the piece a light sanding just to remove any other type of sticky stuff or any grime that might be on it. To apply the wood filler, I am just using my finger. After I was done using the wood filler, I gave it a few days for it to dry completely, and then I sanded it all down for a smooth finish. And once I was done sanding, I gave it a good cleaning once again, just to remove any of the sanded dust off. Then I moved on to removing the handles. Now I will be replacing those handles, but they did not come in time for this video to be posted, so I will be sharing that on my Instagram once they do come. And I am using Annie Sloan chalk paint in a Busan blue. It is a brand new color for me, and I am very pleased with the way it turned out. To apply the paint, I am using a very light coverage, almost dry brushing it, but not putting too much paint onto the brush when I apply it to the piece, because I want some of the black to show through. Make sure you stick around till the end, because not only to reveal what the project looks like, but also I will be linking a full playlist of all of my furniture makeovers that I have done in the past, and trust me, there are some pretty phenomenal pieces out there, so make sure you check out the playlist. It will be linked in at the end of this video on the end screen. So before I move on to the top, here is what the piece looks like, painted with that just light coat. I followed the same technique on the top with the paint. I would also like to mention that the brush that I'm using is actually from Benjamin Moore line. I cannot find it on their website anymore, so I have linked up some brushes that are very similar to this one over in my Amazon store, so make sure if you are looking for a great brush, there are several in there for you to check out, and they are very well priced as well. Now that I have finished with the Abusan blue, I move on dry brushing some Annie Sloan graphite, which is a soft black color. It's almost black grayish, and I do a very dry brush technique, and I just go into little I don't go all over the place, but just in areas that I want to stand out a little bit more. Now the dry brushing technique is where you dip the brush into the paint, and then you take some of that paint off on a cloth or a piece of paper, and then you paint with whatever paint is left on that brush. This blends the colors pretty good, and it gives accents whatever areas you want painted, makes them pop out a little bit more. Once I was done with a dry brushing of graphite, I go back in with dry brushing of Busan blue. So I use the same technique, applying very little paint just to blend the paint even more. Now you could finish it here and move on maybe to waxing, but I wanted to blend it even more, and I'm using a bit of a different technique by wetting my brush with some water, and I just have it in a spray bottle and I spray my brush down, and then I apply paint, and I'm applying a Busan blue first, and then I just blend it all in. With that, it just gives it another layer of dimension, I guess, with the paint. Then I follow again with the same technique and just go with a little brush into little crevices with the graphite. As you can see, it's much later now, and I am the piece had a chance to fully dry, and I'm going in with some clear wax and just applying it with a brush and then taking it off with a lint-free rag. Once the whole top was finished, I moved on applying black wax, and I am using my black wax Annie Sloan brush, and I do the same process where I apply it with a brush and then take it off with a lint-free rag. If this is your first time stopping by my channel, my name is Sonja and I do tons of furniture makeovers on my channel, as well as some trash to treasure makeovers and some dollar store DIY. So if this is something that interests you, I would love it if you consider subscribing and becoming part of my YouTube family, and make sure you press that notification bell so you are notified whenever a new video is posted. I also have a blog and 2 other channels, and you can find me on Instagram and Facebook, and all those links to those things are going to be in the description box if you want to check any of them out. I would just like to say that once I was finished applying the black wax to the whole project, I do reapply the clear wax again and take it all off. I just didn't want to bore you with the same process again. So here it is, and I could not be more pleased with the way this piece turned out. I love all the layers of the paint that it has, and the wax just added so much more to it. I have gotten about 23 or so years ago and decided to upcycle them. So as you can see, this coffee table is in a pretty rough shape. Originally it was just raw wood, it's pine, and it never had any stain on it or anything, but I did use it at one point as a crafting table, so it needed to get all that stuff off, and I am using orbital sandal with 100 grit paper. This did take a little while to do because once I was done with 100, I switched down to 150 and then to 200. So here it is, and the reason why I was sanding the top, because this is where I'm going to be applying the stain. The bottom, however, I'm going to be painting with chalk paint, so that will not be needing any sanding. I'm also showing you the 2 side tables. Now they were chalk painted, and here is using that 100 grit paper. It takes the chalk paint right off, which was a very easy job. If this is your first time stopping by, welcome. I would love it if you considered subscribing, pressing the notification bell if this is something that you like to watch. I also want to mention I have a home channel and a cooking channel, and all of the links are going to be in the description box. And here as well, as I was getting close to the raw wood, I just kept switching out the sandpaper. Once it was all done, I just used a cloth with some water and just dusted everything off and cleaned it really well, making sure that there were no sticky things on it or anything stuck to it, because otherwise the paint will not stick. I am also using just a fine sandpaper just to take anything that's on there off if the water did not work. The chalk paint that I am using is by Annie Sloan Paint, and it is Athenian Black, and I will have it linked down in the description box along with a similar brush that I am using. I have gotten this brush at Benjamin Moore, but I no longer think that they carry that one. I've had it for a very long time. So as you can see, this chalk paint is quite dark. It is a lot darker than their graphite in my opinion, but I think it's perfect for this project. And I am painting the legs and the bottom of the table. It did take me 2 full coats to give it a good coverage. Once it was done and dry, I flipped it over, and I am going using very thin stain in special oak. Some suggested you should use a conditioner on pine prior to staining it in order to get a more even stain. I did not use that because I was going more for that rustic look, so I did not mind if some stain was darker or lighter in places. For the top coat over the stain, I am using General Finishes High Performance Water-Based Top Coat. And for the bottom, I will be using Rust-Oleum Chalked Clear Coat in matte. I do like using a clear coat like that for the chalk paint. It is a little bit easier than using wax. Now you can also use the high performance General Finishes top coat for both if you wish to. They will work both just the same. I am using a sponge paint brush to apply the finishing the top coat, and I am going with the wood grain. And when you're applying the stain, you should be doing the same. I forgot to mention, but when you're applying the wood stain, you should always go with the grain. They do suggest several coats, so I am doing 3 for the stain. For the chalk finish, I only did 1. Now, I did not want to bore you with the repetition, but I did the exact same steps with the 2 side tables that I showed you when I was sanding the chalk paint off. So here it is. I think it turned out absolutely stunning. I think it's gonna look great in my new space. And it wasn't hard to do, a little bit of long process with sanding, but so well worth it. I am so excited to be bringing you this chalk paint furniture makeover. I have had this piece for about 20 some years now, and we haven't been using it, but my son's bedroom set must have been a lot cheaper version, a lot cheaper material, and it had completely fallen apart. So I have decided to give this one a makeover. He picked the color he wanted, and I did the work. So the first thing that I do is I remove the knobs off the dresser because I wasn't gonna paint. Sometimes I'll paint right over top of the knobs as well, but this time I wanted the knobs off. And once they are all off, I clean it with a kind of a bit of a degreasing type of cleaner, just in case if there's things stuck like sticky stuff or just anything that's stuck on it. You do not need to do too much of a prep before you put chalk paint on, but there is some prep. Sometimes you need to do light sanding if things are really stuck on there, because if you don't, your paint will not stick on it.
It's gonna be okay, no matter come what may. I'm gonna set things straight tomorrow. Let all our worries fade, let them sweep away. There'll be another day tomorrow. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, 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 oh. Tomorrow I will set things straight. Tomorrow's gonna be okay. Let all my troubles go away. Tomorrow it's gonna be okay. No matter come what may, I'm gonna set things straight tomorrow.
So here are the supplies that you will need to finish this project. You will need a chalk paintbrush. I am using any Sloan chalk paint in graphite. And then for the finishing, I'm opting out of using the actual wax, and I'm using the Rust-Oleum clear matte protective thing. So I have used this on previous projects, and I like how easy it is to apply. So the first step that I'm doing is painting it. I believe when I first started, I was for sure thought that it was going to need 2 coats, and I was right, it did need 2 coats. If this is your first time stopping by my channel, my name is Sonja, and this is my DIY channel. The reason why I say that is because I do happen to have 2 other channels, a home decor cleaning channel and a cooking channel, and the links to all of my channels will be down below. But on this channel, you can find tons of furniture makeovers, as well as dollar store DIYs and trash to treasure thrift flips. So if this is something that you enjoy, I would love for you to become part of my YouTube family, and make sure you press that notification bell so you don't miss out any of my future uploads. I have tons of furniture makeovers coming your way in the next month or so, so make sure that bell is on so you don't miss them.
Projection of my old life faded. You say it's out of my reach, but I can't pretend no more. 'Cause for as long as I remember, it's been stuck inside my mind. lost outside of nowhere. A stormy rain tried to wash away the dream. Staff wanted says a worn outside, and the diner's name is California Dreams. Hey, for as long as I remember.
So here is what it looks like after the first coat went on. There is still quite a bit that needs to be covered. So I'm going to let this dry for a couple of hours, and while that's drying, I also have a side table to work on, which is the same process as the other one. And here it is, all painted with the one coat. This one covered a little bit nicer than the dresser did, but still needs a second coat. And then I also have a headboard and a footboard to work on. So I will show you just what different things that I used to finishing this headboard, because it had so many little nooks and crannies. I did end up using a much smaller brush for the top, right where the little wrought iron design is, just to add the paint. It worked a lot easier than trying to fit a big brush to get in there. And this as well needed 2 coats of paint. Just before I moved on to my second coat, I did give the top a bit of sanding. I just using a light sandpaper. I think it's 180 grit, so it just gives it a bit of a smoother finish, I think anyways. But I did not do that for the rest of it, just for the top. I did do the same thing for the rest of the pieces, but I just didn't want to share all that with you and bore you with the repetition. And to apply the clear coat, I am using a sponge, just a sponge brush, and I give it a good coverage. I want to make sure that all of it is covered. You can also apply a second coat of it if you want. I was quite happy with the way the first coat finished, so I did not go and repeat the process. But if you think that you're going to be using the piece a lot and there's going to be a lot of traffic on it type of thing, then I would definitely add 2, even 3 coats of this. So here's the finished product. I do love the way it turned out. I think the color that he chose was perfect for his decor, and to take it from this green color to this beautiful graphite finished product is, I think it's a great upgrade. Today I am upcycling this beautiful piece that I picked up off of Facebook Marketplace. I got it for $50. There are a few things that need to be fixed up. Like the top is a little bit loose, and then one of the drawers is a little bit, one of the doors is a little bit loose, so it just needs to be tightened and the top needs to be glued. But let me show you some of the supplies that I will be using for upcycling. So I will be painting the whole piece with Annie Sloan in Athenian black, which is a real black color, and I'm going to put a clear gloss lacquer on it, which is also by Annie Sloan. For the hardware, I will be trying the gilding wax from Annie Sloan. I have never used this before, so it will be a learn with me type of video and see how it, like I watched tutorials and I've talked to the lady that sold me this, and it should be fairly easy. It is the last thing that you do put on, whether it's on furniture or anything, but it is the very last thing you put on. And then some of the other items that I'll need is my favorite chalk paint brush, and then just a foam brush for the lacquer, some sanding block, some rags for cleanup, and then some screwdrivers for the hardware. You will also need some wood glue and a brush for the gilding wax. So let's get started. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to glue the top that's loose, and I'm going to clean it first just on top and then glue it, so that way that can set while I work on the rest of the piece with cleaning and fixing it up. And because there's no visible spots on it for to clean off, I'm just using wet rag, and I just wetted it with water. I want this area to be completely dry before I put the wood glue on.
Yesterday there was.
So I'm just using some clamps to clamp it up or over here, just so it holds it in place.
And now there's something in the air and a sparkly shimmer on our skin, restoring everything within. Dreamy, breezy we go. Easy on our tiptoes, undercover agents of the other.
So I am using a sander just to sand a couple areas down. You don't have to do this. I always like to do it just in case if there's stuff that needs to be you need to smooth out, or any sticky stuff that I might have missed from the from just wiping it down.
We lose track of time, head up high, now we climb. Dreamy, breezy we go. Easy on our tiptoes, undercover agents of the other, beyond gravel, beyond.
Once you're finished sanding, you want to wipe all the dust residue off so there is nothing left. So I think I'm ready to take the hardware off and start painting the drawers and the sides, but the top still needs a little bit more time to cure.
Dreamy, breezy we go. Easy on our agents of the other, beyond gravel, beyond road.
So it seems that the screws are stripped on the inside, so I don't think I'm going to be able to remove those, so I might just paint over them and then just go very carefully with the gilding wax to finish them up. So just to show you what the paint looks like. So I did the first coat. I'm going to let this dry completely. The top is still not ready, so I'm going to let that cure some more. And while that's drying, because I'm going to be using the paintbrush again, I'm going to put it in a Ziploc bag. And put a little elastic around it. That way it's not gonna dry out on me, but I don't have to wash it and then use a different brush because it would be too wet. But just a little trick and tip. So while I was waiting for the piece to dry, I was kind of looking at the top of it, and I'm kind of liking the wood look, but this is very damaged. As you can see, it has tons of damage on it. So I'm going to give it a little bit more sanding. Still using a hand sander, and then I'm gonna apply this Old Masters gel stain in Spanish oak, and this is supposed to be able to go over top of the existing stain already, so you don't actually have to strip it and then apply the stain. But because this has so many scratches, I just want to buff those out with the sander. So that is what I'm gonna do now. And you want to go in the direction of the wood grain. So while that's drying, I'm going to give a second light coat to the bottom part. There's just a couple areas that need some retouching. So now I'm going to start staining the top, and I'm using a rag to do so. And again, in the direction of the stain. So I'm going to let that dry. So now that the piece had some time to dry, I'm going to apply the clear gloss, the lacquer, on the chalk painted part area. And I'm using a sponge brush to do so. So for the gilding wax, I am doing the little, well, I'm gonna do more stuff, but I just wanted to show you with the little knobs. And here is the wax. And I'm just going to squirt a little bit on the paper, just a little touch. And I'm just using a tough bristle brush to pick up some on, and then I'm just going to brush it on. And there. So just to kind of show you the difference.
Give me a reason to get out of bed. I need a minute to think, or maybe two. 'Cause yesterday I lost control.
Okay, now I'm gonna move on to the furniture. While it's still drying, I'm gonna work on the knobs.
It's gonna be okay, no matter come what may. I'm gonna set things straight. Tomorrow, I let my worries fade. Let them sweep away, there'll be another day. Tomorrow.
Just to show you a little close-up, I think that looks really, really nice.
I did them all before, in every shape. There's a million ways to mess things up, and I need some time to figure out what to say and make our troubles figure out what to say and make our troubles disappear. Oh, tomorrow's near. It's gonna be okay, no matter come what may. I'm gonna set things straight. Tomorrow, let all our worry.
So I'm gonna go a little closer just so you can see. I'm going into little crevices just to accent them out.
Drop it, please.
So then I got a flatter brush.
Tomorrow I will set things straight. Tomorrow's gonna.
So I want to add a little bit onto that little circle right there, just to accent it out.
Worries fade, let them sweep away. There'll be another day. Tomorrow, it's gonna be okay, no matter come what may. I'm gonna set things straight. Tomorrow, let all the worries fade, let them sweep away.
Add a sealer for the top. So for the top coat, I'm gonna use the General Finishes water-based top coat. No particular reason other than I had it on hand.
Tomorrow,
So here it is all finished, and let me tell you, I am absolutely in love with this piece and the way it turned out. I'm pleased that I left the top with the stain and the gilding wax. I just love it, and I was extremely impressed how easy it was to use the gilding wax. I was a little bit scared to use it. It was my first time, but I love the way it turned out. today I'm bringing you a thrift store flip. I had picked up this shelf at a local thrift store for $3. I thought that was a great deal. I did not love the hearts on the little doors that were there, but I have a solution for that using these craft squares from Dollarama. I will also going to be using some of this. It looks like chicken wire, but it's more plastic than actual metal. And then I am going to use Annie Sloan Original white paint, and the chicken wire came from Dollarama, as well as these napkins that I'm going to be using. They had come from Dollarama. And then you're going to need some Mod Podge. So the very first thing that I'm going to be doing is trying to figure out how to cover up these hearts. So I thought if I cut this piece of craft square that's like, what is it, press board or something like that, I don't, chipboard, that's it. I can just glue that over top of it because I will be doing something else to it as well. So I thought that that would mask it up pretty good and close up that heart. So I measured out the squares and cut them to size. I am just using my wire cutters and my crafting knife. I do, and my X-Acto knife. I do need to get myself some proper cutting tools one of these days, but it's like one of those things that it's always on my list, but it gets shoved to the back because there's so many other things that I need to purchase. But one day I will get one. So I measured out the size. Now I also wanted to round up the ends too, because the one end is round, the corner. So then I ended up cutting them and then rounding them up as well a little bit, and just giving the edges a little bit of sanding just to smooth it out. I just realized that one of my lights went out right at that moment, and the light bulb just went out. So that's why you saw the difference in the light. So now I am just measuring up the top side to cut down, which I struggled with a little bit, just getting the right fit and to fit it in, which you will see once I glue them on. I had to go in and cut a little bit more. I am using some hot glue. You can also use wood glue to glue this on. I am just using hot glue right now to do so. If this is your first time stopping by my channel, welcome. My name is Sonja, and over on this channel you will find videos like this, as well as dollar store DIYs and some furniture flips. So I would love it if you considered subscribing and becoming part of my YouTube family. And don't forget to press that notification bell so you don't miss out any of my future uploads. I upload 3 times a week currently, and then there's tons of new fall DIYs coming your way. So if you love fall, even more of a reason for you to press that subscribe button. And I just finished my Christmas in July playlist, which I will link in the description box as well as in the corner if you want to check out some of those DIYs. So as you saw, I trimmed off the edge, and this one actually fit perfectly. Now once that was all set in place, I moved on to painting the piece, and I covered the whole piece with the Annie Sloan white. Now I wasn't going for like amazing full coverage. I wanted that shabby chic look, so I am not putting a lot of paint on my paintbrush and just letting some of that wood show through. Once this piece was fully painted and fully dry, I moved on to Mod Podging this napkin on. I love this design, and when I was shopping for it, I actually didn't pick it up, and then I went back and picked it up, and I'm so glad I did because I used it for this project and an upcoming project that's going to be out on Sunday. So I used one napkin for this one, and I'm just going to cut out 2 of these roses, no, they're peonies, to glue to the door. And you want to be separating the napkin completely, there's I think 3 layers there, and I played around with it before I actually Mod Podged it on, just to make sure that it is exactly the way I want it. And then I proceeded using Mod Podge to glue it on. Once it was on there, I used my craft knife just to trim off the edges. I think this was easier than trying to cut a flower to the size to fit in. This way it looks like it was always there kind of look, that there was not a obvious cut line or some missing. It went right to the edge, and I kind of like that better than, like I said, cutting it out to fit onto the square. And then I repeated the same thing for the other door, and then I Mod Podge on the bottom and then as well as on the top. To finish the project off, I hot glued the chicken wire to the back of it. I think this gave it a more of a rustic look than just having it plain. You could totally leave it plain at the back, but I love the way the look that this created. I am also going to be removing the little hooks at the back because I'm not planning on hanging up this shelf, but if you want to hang up the shelf, I would remove these, glue my chicken wire on, and then reattach these back on just so they're over top of the chicken wire. I'm not even sure whether that's called chicken wire. I think it's it's supposed to be part of a garden fence, but to me it looks like chicken wire, so I am calling it a chicken wire. absolutely love the way this piece turned out. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. I think this would look really cute with some thrifted trinkets on it, or some of your maybe skincare, or I don't know about makeup, but even makeup would look good. Well, if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, let me know down in the comments, and thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!